April 18th, 1942, 0820 hours. The rolling deck of the USS Hornet, slicing through the gray swells of the North Pacific, 650 miles east of Japan. Salt spray lashes your face as you grip the railing, the wind howling like a beast unleashed. 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers squat on the flight deck, wings nearly touching, their olive-drab fuselages trembling with the ship's pitch. The air reeks of aviation fuel and brine, thick enough to choke on. Men in khaki flight suits huddle in clusters, cigarettes glowing in the dim dawn light, their breaths short and visible in the chill. You can almost feel the weight of secrecy pressing down. Task Force 16, a ghost fleet steaming into enemy waters, undetected, but for how long? Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle, wiry and intense, paces the bridge wing, his eyes scanning the horizon for the telltale smudge of Japanese picket boats. At 47, he's no stranger to risk, record-setting aviator, daredevil stunt pilot. But this is madness wrapped in strategy. The plan, hatched in the smoke-filled war rooms of Washington after Pearl Harbor's devastation, is simple in its audacity. Launch Army bombers from a Navy carrier, strike Tokyo, and vanish into China's vast interior. No one's ever done it. Carriers aren't built for heavy bombers. The B-25s have been stripped bare, fuel tanks bloated like overfed ticks to squeeze every mile. Takeoff run? A scant 467 feet on a pitching deck. Miss it, and you're in the drink, props chewing salt water. The crew chief for plane number 1, Sergeant Edwin Horton, wipes sweat from his brow despite the cold, double-checking the lashings on the extra gas cans crammed in the bomb bay. Easy does it, he mutters to no one, his voice lost in the roar of the engines warming up. Doolittle's Raiders, 80 volunteers, hand-picked from the 17th Bombardment Group, know the odds. One-way ticket, they call it. No fighter escort, no turning back. Captain David M. Jones, pilot of plane number 3, cracks a grim smile at his co-pilot, Lieutenant Rodney R. Wilder. Hell, if we pull this off, they'll name a drink after us. But beneath the bravado, hearts pound like war drums. Intelligence whispers of Japanese patrols closing in. They've spotted a fishing boat earlier, radio chatter buzzing like angry hornets. Launch now or abort? Doolittle climbs into his cockpit, the lead bird, call sign Whiskey Pete. The Hornet swings into the wind, her 20,000 tons heaving against 30-knot gusts. Signal flags snap, green for go. Props blur into silver discs, the deck crew ducking as the first B-25 lumbers forward. You hold your breath as Doolittle guns it, the bomber teetering on the edge, then lifting, barely, clearing the bow by inches. Cheers erupt, muffled by the din. One by one they follow. Captain Edward J. York's plane number 8, straining under its load of 500-pounders and incendiaries. Lieutenant Travis Hoover's number 2, dipping perilously close to the waves before clawing skyward. 15 more roar off, a miracle of engineering and grit. The carrier's deck empties in under an hour, the raiders forming up in loose echelon, heading west into the unknown. But as the last plane fades into the haze, tension coils tighter aboard the Hornet. Admiral William F. Halsey, Jr., Task Force Commander, stares from the flag bridge, his bull neck straining against his collar. That's it, boys. Now we run like hell. The fleet wheels about, steaming east at flank speed. Japanese radio traffic spikes. They've been spotted. Picket boat number 23, the Nito Maru, had flashed a warning before Navy guns silenced her forever. The raid's cover? Blown. The bombers are 170 miles farther out than planned, fuel margins razor thin. Will they make it to Tokyo or ditch in the sea? High above, Doolittle levels off at 200 feet to skim under radar, the Pacific an endless steel sheet below. His navigator, Lieutenant Henry A. Potter, plots the course with slide rule and prayer. Skipper, winds are against us. ETA Tokyo, 1500 hours local. Doolittle nods, jaw set. This isn't just payback for Pearl, it's a psychological hammer. America, bloodied but unbowed, striking the heart of the empire. The The raiders fly on, instruments flickering in the cockpit gloom, each man alone with his thoughts. What awaits over that distant shore? Glory or a fiery end? The formation drones westward, the sun climbing behind them. Hours stretch like taut wire. Then, faint on the horizon, land, Japan. But as they close in, flak bursts bloom like deadly flowers. The shock is coming, and it's only the beginning. April 18, 1942, 1200 hours local time. The coast of Japan rises sharp and green beneath the wings, fishing villages dotting the shoreline like scattered toys. You skim the wave tops at barely 50 feet, the B-25's twin Wright Cyclones roaring defiance, salt mist streaking the windshield. Doolittle's voice crackles over the intercom in plane number 1. Boys, there's Tokyo dead ahead. Keep it low, keep it fast. The formation breaks into 4 plane elements, each assigned a slice of the Empire's heart. Factories, steelworks, oil depots, the capital itself. No fighters expected. Japanese arrogance has left the homeland naked. Lieutenant Edgar E. McElroy, pilot of plane number 13, ruptured duck, banks north toward Yokohama. His bombardier, Staff Sergeant Robert C. Bourgeois, peers through the Norden sight, fingers steady on the toggle. Target acquired, shipyards and warehouses. The air is eerily calm, no flak yet. Civilians on the ground look up in confusion as the low-flying monsters thunder overhead. American stars on the wings, impossible this close to the sacred soil. Children wave, thinking it's a drill. Then realization dawns. These are not Japanese planes. Over Tokyo, the first bombs fall at 13:20 hours. Doolittle's crew releases their load, 4 500-pound demolition bombs and 1 cluster of incendiaries right onto the city's industrial northwest district. Plumes of black smoke erupt, factories crumpling like paper. You can almost hear the sirens wailing as anti-aircraft guns belatedly swing skyward, shells bursting far too high. The raiders are gone before the gunners find the range. Captain York in plane number 8 streaks over the capital, his gunner, Sergeant Theodore H. Laban, hosing down a pursuing fighter with the tail .50 caliber. First American air-to-air kill over Japan. The Zero peels away, trailing smoke. One by one, the strikes ripple across the Empire. Lieutenant Richard O. Joyce's plane number 10 hammers the Mitsubishi aircraft plant. Captain C. Ross Greening, the raid's artist who painted cartoon bombs on the ordnance, drops his payload on a power station. Lights flicker out across blocks of the city. Incendiaries spark fires in wooden neighborhoods, flames licking toward the sky. The damage is light in tonnage, only 16 bombers, 64 bombs total, but the symbolism? Cataclysmic. The Emperor's palace itself is overflown. Protocol forbids shooting near it, leaving guns silent as the raiders drone past. In the streets below, panic erupts. Tokyo's citizens, fed propaganda of invincibility, stare skyward in disbelief. A school teacher herds children into shelters as glass shatters from concussion waves. Military police bark orders, faces pale. At Imperial headquarters, Admiral Irasoku Yamamoto receives the flash. Enemy carrier-based aircraft bombed Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagawa, Kobe. His fist clenches. Pearl Harbor was meant to cripple America, buy time for conquest. Now this? Army bombers from the sea, striking the homeland on the Emperor's birthday no less? The divine wind has failed. Aboard the fleeing Hornet, 800 miles away, Halsey's radio men intercept frantic Japanese transmissions. Where did they come from? Where did they go? The Admiral allows himself a rare grin. They'll be scratching their heads for months. But back in the cockpits, fuel gauges needle toward empty. Headwinds have bled them dry. China is still 800 miles west, night falling fast. Doolittle glances at his paddle, barely enough for the coast. All right, fellas, time to find a friendly field or bail out. Either way, we gave 'em hell. The raiders push on into gathering dusk, engines coughing on fumes. Some spot Chinese beacons, friendly signals, or so they hope. Others face the inevitable.
parachutes blooming in the dark over occupied territory. What price will this audacity extract? Capture, execution, or escape? The fires of Tokyo glow on the horizon behind them, a beacon of America's awakening wrath. But in the Imperial Palace, a deeper shadow falls. The war has come home, and Japan now knows the Americans are only getting started.
April 18, 1942, 2200 hours. Blackness swallows the sky as the last rays bleed out over the East China Sea. You're strapped into the rumbling fuselage of a B-25, instruments glowing faint green. The drone of engines now a weary throb after 12 hours in the air. Fuel needles quiver near zero. Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle peers into the void ahead, searching for the promised radio beacons from Chinese forces, dots and dashes spelling Raid OK. Nothing but static. Headwinds have stolen 200 precious miles. The raiders are scattered across hundreds of square miles, each crew alone in the dark. Doolittle turns to his co-pilot, Lieutenant Richard E. Cole. "Dick, we're not going to make Chushao. Bailout stations." The order is quiet, almost conversational, but it lands like a hammer. Cole nods, throat tight. They've flown 2,300 miles, farther than any land-based bomber has ever gone on a combat mission. The crew, Navigator Potter, Bombardier Sergeant Paul J. Leonard, Engineer Staff Sergeant Fred A. Bramer, snap-on parachutes, faces lit by the dim red cockpit light. No one speaks the fear aloud. Japanese-occupied China below. Collaborationist troops. Summary execution for downed airmen. At 9,000 feet over Shekiang province, Doolittle cuts the engines. Silence rushes in like cold water. "Good luck, boys," he says. One by one they jump into the roaring slipstream, silk blooming white against the night. Doolittle follows last, tumbling into cloud, rain lashing his face. He hits a rice paddy with a bone-jarring splash, sinking to his knees in mud and human waste. The plane, his plane, crashes minutes later on a coastal cliff, a brief orange flash swallowed by storm. Across the darkened landscape, the story repeats in fragments. Captain Edward York, running critically low, makes the grim choice no one wanted: turn north and land in Soviet territory near Vladivostok. His crew, plane number 8, is interned by the neutral Russians, the only raiders not to reach China. The rest scatter like seeds in the gale. Lieutenant Dean Hallmark's plane number 6 slams into the sea off the coast. 3 crewmen drown, 2 struggle ashore only to face capture. Lieutenant William Thero's plane number 16 crashes in Japanese-held territory, all 5 taken prisoner. You can almost feel the terror of freefall. Harness biting shoulders, wind screaming past ears, then the sudden jerk as the chute opens. Lieutenant Robert Gabe Emmons lands in a tree, hanging like a broken marionette until dawn. Others hit mountainsides, breaking legs, ribs, ankles. Captain Ted Lawson, pilot of the ruptured Duck, smashes into a beach at high speed, his co-pilot dragged from the wreckage with a shattered leg, Lawson himself losing teeth and mangling his knee in the impact. In the pouring rain, Chinese guerrillas emerge from the mist. Farmers, students, soldiers in patched uniforms, risking everything to hide the Americans. "Mei Kuo Feiji," they whisper urgently, American airplane. By morning, 8 crews have crashed or ditched. 71 men are on the ground in China, some gravely injured. Miraculously, none killed on impact. But the Japanese response is swift and savage. Enraged by the humiliation, Tokyo orders a scorched earth retaliation across Shekiang and Kiangsi provinces, the very areas where the raiders landed. General Shigeru Sawada commands the 13th Army. Find the Americans, punish the helpers. Villages are burned, wells poisoned, civilians machine-gunned. Estimates later placed the death toll at 250,000 Chinese, men, women, children, slaughtered in a 3-month rampage of vengeance. Back in Tokyo, the shockwaves ripple through the highest levels. Emperor Hirohito, informed of the raid, remains outwardly serene, but his military council fractures. Home defense has been exposed as myth. The fleet must now guard the sacred islands instead of conquering the Pacific.
Admiral Yamamoto, architect of Pearl Harbor, sees his timetable shattered. Midway, his trap to lure and destroy the American carriers, must be accelerated. The homeland is no longer sanctuary. And across the ocean, in Washington, President Roosevelt, asked where the bombers came from, grins into the microphones. Shangri-La. But for the raiders still missing in the vastness of China, dawn brings no relief, only the sound of distant rifle fire and the knowledge that Japanese patrols are closing in. Who will reach friendly lines? Who will face the firing squad?
October 15th, 1942. A barren execution ground outside Shanghai under a cold autumn sky. 8 American airmen, hands bound, faces bruised, stand before freshly dug graves. Lieutenant Dean E. Hallmark, Lieutenant William G. Farrow, and Sergeant Harold A. Spatz have been singled out from the captured raiders. A Japanese officer reads the verdict in clipped tones. Violation of the laws of war, bombing civilians, sentenced to death. The men meet it with quiet courage. Farrow, 25 years old, scribbles a final note on a scrap of paper. "If I don't come back, tell Mother I love her." Hallmark turns to his crewmates and whispers, "See you on the other side, boys." Rifle volleys crack across the field. The 3 drop. 5 others, Lieutenant Robert J. Meader, Lieutenant Chase J. Nielsen, Corporal Jacob DeShazer, Lieutenant George Barr, and Sergeant Robert L. Height, are spared execution but condemned to life in prison. Meader will die of slow starvation in a Nanjing cell by December 1943. The rest endure years of solitary confinement, beatings, beriberi, and dysentery in fetid POW camps. DeShazer, the bombardier from plane number 16, finds a tattered Bible in his cell and begins a transformation that one day will take him back to Japan, not as a bomber, but as a missionary. Back in the spring of 1942, the surviving raiders trickle into Chongqing, carried on bamboo litters by Chinese peasants who risked annihilation to save them. Doolittle himself, mud-caked and exhausted, reaches a guerrilla outpost after days of hiding in pine thickets and abandoned temples. When Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek's aides finally locate him, the colonel's first words are grim. "I've lost all my airplanes. I should be court-martialed." Instead, he's promoted to brigadier general and awarded the Medal of Honor. Roosevelt pins it on him in a White House ceremony, the citation reading simply, "For conspicuous leadership above the call of duty, involving personal valor and intrepidity at extreme hazard to life." But the deepest wound is borne by the Chinese. In the months following the raid, Japanese forces unleash what historians later call the Zhejiang-Jiangxi campaign, a deliberate genocide to erase any trace of assistance. Entire towns are razed. Suspected helpers are beheaded in public squares. Bacteriological units spread plague-infected fleas. By autumn, the death toll climbs past 250,000. One missionary report describes rivers choked with bodies, villages reduced to charred skeletons. The Chinese pay in blood for America's symbolic blow. In Tokyo, the raid's psychological scar festers. Propaganda ministers scramble to spin the story, claiming the bombers were shot down, the damage minimal. But the truth leaks through. School children saw the stars and bars with their own eyes. Navy Minister Shigetaro Shimada demands explanations. Yamamoto, aboard his flagship Yamato, broods over charts. The Homeland Fleet must now detach precious carriers and fighters to patrol the islands, resources he desperately needs elsewhere. The decision is made. Accelerate the Midway operation. Destroy the American carriers before they can strike again. The Imperial Navy sails into history's greatest ambush, losing 4 fleet carriers in a single day. Many historians trace the turning point back to this moment, to 16 B-25s that forced Japan onto the defensive. Across the Pacific, the raid ignites something primal. Newspaper headlines scream, "Tokyo bombed." Recruitment lines swell. War bond sales soar. Americans, stunned by Pearl Harbor and months of defeat, suddenly believe again. The raiders become legends. Doolittle's name on cocktail glasses. Lawson's memoir, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, a bestseller, later a Hollywood film starring Spencer Tracy. Yet the men themselves carry quieter burdens. Nightmares of burning cities, guilt over Chinese suffering, the faces of lost comrades. The war grinds on for 3 more bloody years, but on that April day in 1942, something irreversible shifted. Japan learned the war would not stay conveniently overseas. America discovered it could reach out and touch the enemy's heart. And in the ashes of Zhejiang's villages, the true cost of defiance was written in lives no medal could repay. The Doolittle Raid did not shorten the war by a single day in military terms, yet it changed everything. It told the Empire, you are not safe. It told America, we are only beginning to fight.
If this story moved you, honor the courage behind it. Like the video, subscribe for more true war stories, and remember the price paid by those history tried to forget.